Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There, Loki, a weekly video stream and podcast currently focused on Marvel's Loki series, which is available to watch on Disney+. In this episode, we are going to have a spoiler-filled conversation about episode 2, The Variant. And our discussion is probably also going to spoil parts of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, although I'm sure it'll be up for debate today as to whether the Infinity Saga actually counts anymore. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll get into that. So with the spoiler warning out the way, if it's your first time here, then welcome. Please do have a look around the channel. Check out some of the other content on here. And if it seems to be your thing, then please consider giving us a like and subscribing to the channel because it all helps. I'm Keith Isles. I'm an independent filmmaker and lifelong enthusiast of cinema and television. And for this episode, I am pleased to be joined with a panel of equally enthusiastic people, I hope. So first up, I'm really pleased to welcome back red carpet host, documentarian, and host of premierscene.net. Welcome, Claire Bueno. Hey, Claire.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
How you doing? Yeah, good, thanks.
Very
How
well.
are you?
Very, very well.
That's
enjoying the glorious sunshine that we're having in the UK at the moment.
There you go. So you decided to come back for another round.
I did. You can't have enough of a good thing. That's what I say. Oh, you all made me feel so welcome last week. So I couldn't wait to come back.
Well, you're always very welcome and we're pleased to have you back. So, but our panel grows and joining us from the other side of the Atlantic, in fact, from New York City with a New York skyline view. So we're really adding production value to these streams every time. It's my co-host on the Let's See What's Out There podcast, Pete Mealy. Hey Pete.
How's it going?
Look at that skyline behind you, man.
Yeah. It's a little bit of bonus for the YouTube viewers.
It's like you're in Stark Towers. Yeah?
Yeah, I am. I'm in the Avengers Tower.
As long as if we see a battle going on outside the window, we know that we've obviously gone back in time and we're all variants, right? So
and you're not keeping it low key.
Hey, there you go. I like what you did there.
Not heard that one before.
I always enjoy a good pun. And talking of a good pun, no, I haven't got one, but it's time to welcome back to the stream another filmmaker and a comic book fan. Welcome, Clive Ashenden.
Hello.
Hey, Clive, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good to be back.
Pleased to be
talking
back.
more Loki.
More Loki. Yeah, absolutely. But where would we be? I feel that the team is not quite complete. What we need is somebody to balance it out, and we need someone who's got strong opinions on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I know that this next guest does. He's an independent filmmaker. He's the director responsible for the award-winning Rebecca Gold web series, which you can find online. And he calls himself the Mega Geek. Please welcome Ian David Diaz.
Hello. How are we all?
We're very good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm all right. Rearing to go as always.
What T-shirt are you rocking today?
Just Gallifrey, Doctor Who.
So it's more timey-wimey stuff then.
Timey-wimey stuff, yeah.
So
just like Loki, actually. Timey-wimey stuff.
Relevant. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into our discussion of it, we're just going to, for those of you that might need a little recap, Pete is going to take it away. So, Pete, go for it.
Okay. Loki is training up on Time Cop stuff, but another Time Cop team gets ambushed at a Ren fair, so Loki, Mobius, and co. go to investigate. Loki maybe tries to work some mischief, but Owen Wilson's nose sniffs out the chicanery, and they all go back to headquarters. Loki and Mobius have a conversation about time and life and predestination that is akin to skipping a stone across the lake of philosophy. It looks cool, it goes by fast, and then it just sort of sinks out of view, and you wonder what the point of it all was. Loki hits the books, figures out that you can mess with timelines as much as you want right before an apocalypse, so that's where the other Loki is hiding. They mobilize the team again and find other Loki hiding in a superstore right before an apocalypse in Alabama in 2050. Loki tries to team up with the other Loki, but they want none of it. Other Loki reveals herself and then drops a bunch of time grenades through a bunch of mini time doors, splintering the holy timeline. Other Loki disappears into a time door, and before Mobius or Time Cops can stop him, Loki goes to credits.
Nice. Nicely done, Pete. So there we go.
Nicely done. I think that deserves a round of applause.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Round of applause.
Let's keep moving.
Teamwork makes the dream work. We like it.
Yeah.
It's all good. And talking about giving people credit and applause. So we mentioned them last week, but this show is in fact directed by Kate Herron, who we mentioned, and the showrunner and main writer for this is Michael Waldron. So all good stuff there. But somebody else that I wanted to mention, because I felt that they deserve some credit. I wasn't able to find a very good picture online, unfortunately, but I want to mention, sorry, God, look at me trying to multitask. I'm not doing a very good job of it, am I? Come on, share. Here he is. So I wanted to credit Kasra Farahani, who is the production designer on this show, because I think the production design on this is pretty impressive. Looking at his work, he's worked for some years in the art department, starting off with the film The Terminal, which he worked in the art department of. He's also been a conceptual illustrator on Miami Vice, Blades of Glory, Spider-Man 3, an assistant art director on 3:10 to Yuma, conceptual illustrator on The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, conceptual artist on The Wolfman, and more recently Black Panther and Mile 22. And he's been an illustrator on the TV series Homecoming and production designer on Ranger's Apprentice. So he's done quite a bit of work. He also worked as art director on Captain Marvel, so has been involved in MCU prior to this. So I'm going to try each week to credit some of the main crew on this, but I just thought I'd start by mentioning his work. So there you go.
Fantastic.
So,
and it
indeed,
the look and feel of the film is really nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got that,
really,
you mentioned last time, that sort of analog retro look, and it's got a little bit of it reminds me of like Brazil and stuff like that in terms of some of its production design, with that sort of lo-fi, sci-fi sort of stuff, But
yeah, I thought it was a bit John Wick as well. It's got that without the tattoos.
Well, that John Wick thing is that they don't use anything digital. So when they do everything, it's all paperwork and stuff like that, so they don't get traced. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Definitely. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think the look of the show is really a real change from what we've had. Obviously, one of the good things with Marvel is they have been sort of changing up styles and themes and looks and whatever throughout the different movies and series that we've had, and I do sort of think they've upped the game with this one. Clive, have you got any particular thoughts on that?
General thoughts, or
I thought you were just going to say no.
No is allowed as well. But, you know.
No, I'm not sure where you want to start really, but I guess we could start with the cold open, with the way they sort of we see a bit more of the dangerous Loki variants, although still hooded, and then see them make pretty short work of this team at the beginning, and then we get the beginning of the kind of odd couple, our central pairing really of Loki and Mobius, which I thought worked really well in this episode. I mean, it worked well in the first one, but it's really sort of blossoming. It's a bit unfair because I did enjoy sections of Winter Soldier and Falcon, but their kind of odd couple chemistry stuff sometimes felt a bit forced. Sometimes that was the writing, but here it just feels so kind of easy, like the kind of the camaraderie between them. It's even when things are kind of moving at quite a deliberate pace, I sort of didn't mind because I was just kind of letting it sort of flow over me, and it was and it was just nice to watch like two performers like that really kind of spark off each other, I thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of on-screen chemistry, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's part of the show that is definitely working. Is that relationship. But what did we think? Clive mentioned there the cold open. What did we think of that? Because that, when you think about it, that was actually quite a violent scene, but was actually, made humorous because of the soundtrack that it was up against. So, we were in the 80s, 1985, which of course is obviously a bit of a Back to the Future reference in itself, I guess, being in 1985. But obviously that was supposed to be diegetic music playing there while she's basically brutally killing people. But we had...
Was it? I'm not sure I agree. I think the Loki variant deliberately chose that. Do you not think?
That's right. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's supposed to be.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like it was within the actual scene. Sorry.
Exactly. It's like source music playing over that PA system, and of course, Bonnie Tyler's "Holding Out for a Hero" was. I know a lot of younger people know it from Shrek or Shrek 2 or whatever it was, but of course, it was in the film Footloose in 1984. It was a hit from that. And then I've also put up there, I remember it from the TV show Cover Up. I don't know if any of you remember that.
I remember that show.
I liked that when I was a kid, and it wasn't done by Bonnie Tyler. It was covered.
The lead died, and then they replaced him with somebody else.
He did.
That's right.
Yeah, it was Russian roulette. He shot himself in the head, didn't he? Playing Russian roulette.
Well, he was playing with blanks. He was playing with blanks.
That's right. John Eric Hexam here with Jennifer O'Neill. And this was another show that was produced by Glenn A. Larson. And sadly, I think it only lasted one season anyway, but sort of midway through the season, John Eric Hexam tragically died at that gun accident and was replaced with, I think it was Anthony Hamilton who replaced him. Who was later in the reboot of Mission Impossible a few years later. But they had a cover version of Holding Out for a Hero on that as well. So I thought it was a good opportunity to mention
like that. The geek you are, yeah.
Indeed, very geeky. Did
anybody else sort of think that it was, like Guardians of the Galaxy was very, the whole soundtrack to that was made popular because of the soundtrack and everything. And I just wondered whether it was trying to borrow on that a little bit by using that music.
Well, it's nothing
I don't know
new.
if anybody else thought the same thing.
Well, it's nothing new. They've done that in TV shows before. If they got access to the music, I mean, I was just watching Sweet Tooth today, and they played some 80s tune as it started. So I mean, it's very common now, I guess, just to set the tone of what's going to happen in that episode. So I think they did it with this, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought it worked quite well in so much as it was kind of. It made a very violent scene, because it was pretty violent, that scene. But I think obviously having that music playing in the background, over that speaker system, kind of lightened it slightly. But Pete, I don't know. Have you got any thoughts? You're quiet there.
About the music? No, I don't have any real thoughts
about the scene or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. The joke that I took from it was a little bit different. That I thought they were trying to make the joke about how in one of the previous flashbacks we went to 1700s France, but this time it looks like that, but it's a Ren Fair in 1985 Wisconsin. So that's like, I didn't pick up on the music funny. I was just laughing at the Ren Fair people.
Yeah, especially when one of them says that you're in the wrong costume or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One of them taking it very seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
which I thought was hilarious. But yeah.
Absolutely. And then of course, so again, Claire?
I mean, to me, it is just sort of setting it all up. But at the end of the day, I think this program is just meant to be fun, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I might take a little bit of disagreement there, because I think like that philosophical conversation that Mobius and Loki had, I think they were really trying to sort of touch on the deeper things, and they sort of swung and missed, in my opinion, and they didn't, really say anything or make any point there. I mean, maybe the jet ski conversation a little bit was like, how do you get joy out of life? What do you protect? The little good stuff, even if you never get to experience it. But I don't know. I feel like it's the show's skating on the edge of these sort of bigger questions about life and predestination and free will. But they're not really engaging with it, and they're not doing it well yet. But there is enough entertainment value to keep going.
Okay, so at this point then, Pete, in the show so far, obviously we're only 2 out of 6 in, but you're not quite feeling it yet, no?
Yeah, I'd say like I'm mid-range on this. I think that the predestination and implications of that are kind of a sticky situation, and so we got to see how they come out of it. I also think that the Loki and Mobius interplay is kind of fun, but I don't know that it's enough to carry the series, and I'm worried that 6 episodes is too short to really accomplish anything, especially at the pace that they're going.
Okay, so you think it's a little bit of a opposite problem to what some of you were saying with, for example, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where you felt it was a bit drawn out and a bit padded. If anything, you feel that it might be with this particular one the opposite problem.
Yeah, I think maybe if they really wanted to, I mean, we have to wait and see what else comes, right? But if they really wanted to get into some of these bigger things, they maybe needed a little bit more time.
Okay. What about you, Ian? What are your thoughts? Because I know last week you said you weren't kind of majorly on board with it yet. Has this week changed your mind at all?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. It is what it is at the end of the day. There's a lot of politics thrown in there. which people don't want to talk about, and I'm not going to talk about it here because I know how it incenses people, but I see it and I can't unsee it, unfortunately. This episode was a meh, and I agree with what Pete was saying. They tried to have these talks, but really it was just basically trying to draw out the episode. If you took out those bits of communication between Owen and Loki, can't remember his real name, it wouldn't make any difference to the story whatsoever. We knew Loki was going to be a girl, which is the thing in Hollywood. All main females all main characters have to be female. They can't be talked down to. They've got to be in command. We know all that stuff's driving through this show, and Loki's just set upon. He's just made out to be an idiot in the first half of this episode, and then towards the ending, he gets a bit cunning. But he gets thrown around a lot. This powerful villain that we knew in the Marvel, cinematic universe, he's just a wimp. He gets thrown around by a big guy. Is it a big guy with a beard? And then he gets, what I mean? It's just.
Well, he got thrown around by the Hulk, to be fair, didn't he?
No, but that's the Hulk. That's the Hulk, for God's sakes. Do you know what I mean? You'd think that Loki, because he's back on Earth and he has all his powers. What did he do? He just grabbed a Hoover or something like that. Do you know what I mean? You all those powers that he had, he could do it. Because remember when he was wet and he made himself dry, he knew he had his powers there. So why didn't he do anything more while he was when he was fighting with that guy and the woman at the end? He didn't, and it just kind of, I don't know. I mean, I agree with Pete. It's just, this isn't the Loki I know. Anyway, I shall stop there.
No. That's what this is all about. This is what these conversations are about. Claire, what about you? What are your thoughts? Have you got any different feelings about that sort of thing?
Well, to me, it feels really kind of highbrow, and I really enjoyed that. I actually really loved the scenes between Mobius, is it? Owen Wilson, and Loki. I like that they're the kind of the relationship and how they're trying to kind of weigh each other up, and that kind of dance between each other. I've enjoyed that. I think it's quite an intelligent program.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really enjoyed it. And I'm intrigued to kind of find out more. I did kind of anticipate that the Loki that they're looking for was going to be a girl. I think I don't know much about the comics, but I have seen in the past, that there is a female Loki in the comics.
Yeah, she's in the comics.
So I kind of expected that that we would see that, particularly as well, because there's a drive towards, female strong leading parts, which I do get that not every. That I do get where you're getting, where you're coming from there as well about, every woman seems to have to be strong and powerful and whatever. So there is a bit of top ticking of boxes, I think.
What's your? I'm interested though, Claire, as a woman yourself. What are your thoughts on that sort of thing? I mean, do you? Obviously, equality is a good thing, of course.
I do.
But do you think that in the current, particularly in the entertainment landscape, do you think that at the moment that has become a bit of a forced issue, or do you feel that it is balanced?
I think there should be equality, and I think there should be excellently written roles for men and for women, and they should all have, an ability to have an arc, and have depth and be three-dimensional. And I do feel at the minute there is a lot of TV where the women are written fantastically and the men are just kind of like supporting and just padding out the show. And I don't think that should be like that. I think the part, it should all start with the writing, and the character should be written well, period, regardless of what your gender is.
I mean, I totally agree with you, Claire. Totally agree with you. I want it to be equal. It's not like I'm against females being in charge and stuff like that. I'm not against that at all, not at all.
No.
But when you see it's heavy on one side, and the other side suffers, then that's when I have a problem. Me personally, I'm sure it's no problem for you guys, but for me, I can't unsee it now, and it spoils my enjoyment. It really does. So yeah, sometimes it's very little in shows, and I can accept it. When it's heavy, I just sigh, and I just go, oh.
Yeah,
and it makes me not want to watch it. So, but anyway, it's just my opinion. I'm sure a lot of people disagree, and I don't have any problem with people who like the way shows are going now. If they like it, that's great. Do you know what I mean? But for me, it's something else.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like what you said there, Claire, about at the end of the day, it's about having good characters and just good characters with good stories, and it's about finding that balance. And I know as well that the balance was way the other way for a long time. So, but I find your opinion as well on that kind of interesting, and thanks for that, and obviously you as well, Ian, for that, because it's important that we have these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, people do get on a high horse about it, and there's a lot of stuff about it on the internet and stuff like that. But I don't subscribe to that. I'm like you, Keith. I want to see a really good show. I don't care if a woman's in charge or a woman's a lead, but because Loki is the lead in this show, he seems to be demeaned a lot. Like he cries. It's the second time he's crying. It's like they want to show the main character is very, very weak, and I hope he doesn't stay like that. I hope he does really get back to the Loki he is, because
the only thing I'd sort of counter that with is Loki in the movies, since, he was introduced in Thor, which was the third movie in the MCU, and he has been the sort of brunt of quite a lot of jokes throughout, hasn't he? He's been that kind of,
but he never cared, though.
He's the anti-hero that won't go away. And
yeah, but Keith, he never cared, did he? I mean, like, he knew that Asgard was gonna, if he was told in the MCU universe that Asgard was gonna blow up, he wouldn't give a shit about it at all. But now we're told that this guy cares. When he looks at the files, that he starts crying because Asgard's gone. I don't know. It just doesn't bode well with me. The character is suddenly changed. For me anyway. Just for me.
Is it
Clive,
just not trying
go on,
to
Clive. I don't care what you say, guys. It's fine. You could say whatever you want. I'm not going to take offense at all.
I get what you're saying. I just think I just wonder whether they're trying to write more nuance. And now that the show is focused on Loki, we're able to see kind of different facets of Loki's personality, and he isn't just a trickster. There is, there is emotion lying underneath, somebody that's trying to show that he doesn't give a shit when actually.
But road goes two ways, right?
In Thor, you see him being a really hurt. He finds out basically he's been adopted, and his whole life up till then isn't what he thought it was. So he's always been hurt and trying to lash out. That's how I've kind of
but he's angry, and the way he lashes out is very much evil, isn't it? It's not this soft Loki that we got now. And I understand why they're doing it, because that's the way they want certain characters to be in a TV show. But as I said, the road goes both ways, right? They could have easily done this Loki where he's, as I said, he's like Dexter, he's still focused on being evil, but do you know what I mean? But they didn't. They chose that. Well, sorry, yeah. We won't get into
I have never compared Loki to Dexter. If I couldn't love him even more.
That's probably a bad example.
No. I hear what you're saying, and I've got some thoughts on that scene as well. But before that, Clive, I want to hear what you think about this, please.
Well, I feel like it gets confusing because there's Loki variant, and then there's evil Loki variant, who's the uber villain. But the Loki character for me, changed massively over the course of all the Thor movies and the Avengers movies that he popped up in. And there was always a sort of, there was always the partly who's you see him being humbled for comic effects, the puny god stuff, or but then it's that whole thing about he's a trickster. He plays jokes on people, but sometimes the jokes just backfire on him. It's like he's the practical joker. If he got it all his own way, I'm not sure it'd be as much fun as it is to sometimes see him like trip up and fall on his face. And so all this sort of thing about him, having feelings about Asgard, we saw him sacrifice his life to save Asgardian people in, so spoilers, in
even the
too late. In Avengers,
Infinity War.
Yeah, it was Infinity War. Yeah, Infinity War. So, so I feel like all of those bits have always been there in his character. Mm-hmm. I guess what is the slight, maybe takes a little bit getting used to is this idea of this is supposed to be Loki from an earlier part of his timeline.
Yes.
And then what they've tried to do is within the space of like an episode and a half of like kind of like really like push him further towards that sort of more sympathetic side of that is, he has that potential within himself, but they've sort of shoved him that way. Mm-hmm. Right, or Mobius, you could say, is like manipulated, just prodded him and gone like, poked his sore spots, and also got him to realize how insignificant he is in a cosmic or temporal, if you want, sense. That how all his big plans and stuff actually are really, really tiny and small and insignificant. Yeah. So It is true that they have kind of, belittled him and sort of made fun of him and stuff. But he's, that's, I think, part of the show trying to make him more sympathetic to us. Yeah. That's how I read it. Yeah. They want him to be that anti-hero. They want him to have a bit of mischievousness, but still basically be on the, on the sort of, good side of the spectrum. Yeah. Right.
No, absolutely. I mean, we have to remember that this Loki in this show is the Loki post the Battle of New York, the 2013 Loki or whatever. Oh, yes. So this is before he saw any of the events of Ragnarok. And one of the things, I know everybody loves Ragnarok, and it was a lot of fun, and Waititi or whatever is good. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. He's great, and it was good. But the one thing I had a problem with Ragnarok over was they turned the destruction of Asgard into like a sort of, in the tone of that film, like they do. They turned it into kind of a joke, immediately after. And I actually felt that we had more consequence of that from Loki reading the file in this episode than we actually had in the film Thor Ragnarok. Personally, I felt that. I don't know whether any of you
changed Thor's character as well in that. They changed Thor's character into a buffoon in Thor Ragnarok as well. He wasn't the Thor from the other crappy movie that he was in. What was that one called? Yeah, the one that Pete hates.
Yeah, they tried to sort of lean into, Chris Hemsworth, as well as being an absolute bloody male specimen that he is, but he's like also a funny chap, isn't he? But he's also a funny chap, isn't he? He's quite. He is. He is. So they've really in those, especially like in Avengers Endgame, they've leaned into that part of his personality and brought that to Thor, haven't they?
But Keith, the point I'm trying to make is that they could have got. Look, it's a two-way road, right? With everything, there was always another bit to it. You can't have an up without a down. You can't have a head without a tail. Do you know what I mean? So with this construction of this story of Loki, they could have easily gone with evil Loki, right? Trying to tear up something or destroy something, and forces trying to stop him. They could have easily gone with that idea about Loki, which is more close to Loki, right? But they didn't. They went with this idea, right?
But do you not?
Now, let me finish. Which is the sign of the times now. So, I mean, if they want to go that way, they're going to want to go that way. That's fine. But for me, I wanted Loki. I didn't want
Yeah.
soft Loki. I wanted Loki destroying things.
But
being
do you
Loki.
do you not feel that that's how this episode ended?
Well, he
Yeah.
jumped
Getting
through.
that Loki.
But I understand, right? But I can't shake the thing out of my head that he didn't do anything when he was in that department store. You know, he didn't do anything Loki-ish. He just picked up a Hoover, you know, and he got thrown around a lot and stuff. He could have done millions of things, which he's demonstrated throughout the 10 years. Well, the films that he were in. But I mean, as I said, that's just me, and I feel that. But if a lot of guys are happy with this episode, but I'm kind of not really. But it was enjoyable. I got to admit, I enjoyed it towards the end, and I really wanted to know what was happening. What he was going to do and stuff. And the ending made me want to see what was going to happen. So I probably keep watching. That's the plus side of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with Pete. It was kind of it's flat. They'd had these talks about things that are you interested in him being interested in stuff like that? The Owens character? No, not really. Do you know what I mean? So, but anyway, as I said, it's good to have different points of view and stuff. And the thing is, nobody's right. That's the thing. So,
yeah. But do you not want to know what makes the character tick? We've got the time to do that in a TV series. So does that not help us get to know the character more and what motivates
this version? This version of the character. But as I said, if they went with Loki the Destroyer, you would have got to know Loki the Destroyer as well in a different tone for a TV series. But no, but they chose this, which is the flavor of Hollywood now. So, and as I said, right, I try to ignore it, but unfortunately I can't unsee the stuff's going on. So that kind of spoils my enjoyment a bit, I mean, me and Keith, we talked about this when we were looking at the Oval, for instance. When we were reviewing the Oval, the Oval didn't have any of that stuff in it at all. It was just plain and simple and fair to every sex in that show. But this doesn't seem to be balanced very well, in my opinion. But there you go.
Pete, I'm interested. Obviously, you've got your issues with this. Are they the same as Ian's, or are they
probably not
from a different place?
No, not the same as Ian's.
No, of course not.
I mean, I feel like we had a lot of conversations about where Ian lands on the side of things and where I land. It's very different.
It's great. It's great. We have two opinions.
Two opinions. We can talk about them. We don't call each other names, right? We just
say,
I disagree. Right? And so, like, one of the things I disagree with is like, hey, I get Ian's point about what the character of Loki is in this is not Loki the Destroyer. But from my side of things, I think like you see Loki the Destroyer for like a hot 10 minutes in the Avengers. And then every other time you see him, he's a version of the Loki that we're seeing now, where he is played for laughs, or he is turning into a sentimental brother, right? A sentimental Asgardian. And like he sometimes tries to buck that, and he tries to take power, but bottom line, he is a sentimental Asgardian. And like you see that in Ragnarok when he's saying goodbye to Odin. You see that in Endgame, Infinity War, where he sacrifices his life for Thor. And so I think like, hey, that's the Loki that we've been getting, and so that's the Loki that Marvel continued to tell the story with. You're absolutely right, Ian. They could have told a very different story here with, like a full-on trickster. But I also think that the Loki that is sort of the lovable trickster is getting a lot more enjoyment or fan reaction than sort of evil Loki. And that, definitely a sign of the times, I think, in how people feel. But I still have my problems with the show where like, they're making this lovable character, but I don't know that they're playing him great. I totally agree with Ian that like the fight scene in the Superstore They did not really use Loki's powers there, right? There should have been 7 Lokis popping up. You know, they set up the thing about him doing multiple Lokis in one location, and then they didn't pay that joke off in this episode, right? And they totally could have paid it off by having 2 Lokis fight the one big guy, and then he says to the other Loki, like, "Look, that's duplication. That's not just whatever it's called." Right? And that could have been a hilarious moment, right? You still could have ended with the other Loki beating this Loki. But you could have, instead of just wasting it, you could have had fun with it.
Yeah,
Fair
I
enough.
agree.
Clive, do you think going into the next episode, the way this ended, do you think we're going to get some of Loki the Destroyer? Or do you think that it's going to continue to be Loki the Buffoon?
Loki the Buffoon. That's fun.
I'm not sure. I agree with Loki the Buffoon, although it's amusing. I think they'll continue the way they've been going, because why develop the character to go this way and then suddenly take a hard turn in another direction? Also, they're differentiating Loki from the what looks to be the female version of Loki, although I wonder whether there's going to be like a reveal on that actually this variant isn't quite what she seems, and maybe there's someone else involved as well. We'll see. But
okay. Well, while we're on that subject, so we got Sophie DiMartino playing.
She's cute.
She's absolutely. She's which is we've already said Chris Hemsworth is, so we're allowed to say he is, right?
Well, in some places we're not allowed to say
equality,
it.
Exactly.
That's my point. Yeah.
But she's, interestingly, on IMDb and whatever, she's being credited as the variant because she was in this episode. That's what it's about. But yes, there are all these if you like, fan theories and whatever out there that she's Lady Loki. Obviously, she's wearing the horn headset there, or headdress, sorry, there from the episode. And below that is one of the artists' interpretations of Lady Loki from the comic books.
See how far we've come? Look at that picture of the drawing. Look at her. Look how far we've come, eh? Guys?
There you go.
Question, Keith.
Yeah, sure.
Keith, can I ask a question? How much fun did you have looking for Lady Loki?
I got distracted along the way. But,
that's a dirty-old job, isn't it?
I won't put that on the internet for everybody to judge me. There you go.
We had naked Tom Hiddleston last week.
Last
and Lady
week,
Loki this week. Yeah, that's equality.
There you go. It's pleasing all camps. But no, is anybody actually? I know some of you guys know the comics a lot better than me. I admit that I'm not an aficionado of the comic books, but are any of you familiar with the Lady Loki character and this this sort of storyline within the comics? Does anybody know anything about that?
I've only seen pictures of her. I've seen comic books and I've never read them though. But I don't know enough about her, to tell you the truth.
What about you, Clive? I know you're pretty familiar with a lot of them. I know there's a hell of a lot of material out there, so I'm not expecting you to know everything. But are you familiar with this character?
Only tangentially. I've not read a lot of those comics. I believe that there was a storyline where Loki died and then was reborn as a child and grew up to be this new good version of Loki, and then and sort of gain the trust of Thor and all the Avengers, and then the sort of original evil version of Loki popped up and sort of melded with that. So I think the Lady Loki was involved in that, but then Loki in the comics has always had this shape-shifting part to them, and and particularly in the more recent comics, is definitely been portrayed as sort of being like gender fluid, like as like he or she could appear as whichever gender at whichever point, whatever causes the most mischief,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know Ryan Airy of Screen Crush, who we've had as a guest on the stream before. He had a theory. Again, I'm not too familiar with the characters, but he had a theory that this actually might be another Marvel character called, I think he said it was Enchantress.
It might be.
So it might actually not be
Lady Loki
after all, but it could have been Agatha all along, right?
Yeah, it could be. If Lady Loki turns up, I hope she's wearing that costume that's in the drawing. That'd be really cool. Well, there you go.
Yeah,
wishful thinking.
Just Google it, folks.
Yeah, I will.
Hours of entertainment. No,
how sad am I?
After you've checked out this channel, obviously. But yes. No, that's cool. So what do we think then? I mean, obviously, this is kind of ended on a really big deal here, because obviously all of the various timelines are branching off now and getting in, into that red zone. What did we think about the investigation work that went into this episode, where they end up going to Pompeii, don't they, just before the eruption and whatever, and they realize if it happens during a sort of apocalyptic event, then whatever they do doesn't affect history or the timeline or change anything. I mean, what did we sort of think about the overall build up to that reveal and the way they handled it in this narrative? Claire?
I'm hoping they'll bump into Bill and Ted on the way.
or the Doctor. Yeah, one of them. Yeah.
Don't know.
I don't know.
No,
it's a really good question,
it is.
Keith.
I found the investigation a bit dull and tedious, actually. I really did. Okay. I don't know how we came to the conclusion that they could hide in the the big event, the popular. Yeah, I didn't know how we came to that conclusion, but hey,
he came to that when he saw the destruction of Asgard document.
Oh, of course.
They said that the variant signature or whatever was something like 0.0000 whatever it was. And that was kind of what made him put 2 and 2 together of that, was at those. And of course, Owen Wilson's Morbius says earlier in the episode as well, because he says, well, why don't we just turn up before the event to stop it? And he was saying, no, it doesn't work like that. You have to actually turn up at the event in order to, to snip any of those timelines by,
timey-wimey thing,
that disintegrating, whatever they call it. I forgot what they call the device now. Sorry, I should have made notes, but you know the thing I mean.
Yeah,
that erases the timeline. Sorry,
timey-wimey.
Time grenade.
Time grenade.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. So they. But here's a question, because I know you, Ian, and you, Clive, you keep saying timey-wimey and mentioning the Doctor and everything. And as you know, I don't do Doctor Who, and I'm not really that familiar with it. But one of the things that I could be completely wrong here, but one of the things that's always it's been one of my sort of little nitpicks with Doctor Who, actually, is from the very little I've seen, quite often it doesn't actually deal that much with time travel. I could be completely wrong there.
No, you're right. With Doctor Who, you're right.
Yeah, it seems more like a sort of magic person in a blue box.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That gets involved in other people's adventures or whatever throughout time, but not actually necessarily dealing with the consequences of time travel and paradoxes and all of that sort of stuff. But is this show? I mean, I've heard some people say that this is like an American Doctor Who with a budget, and would you agree with that, or is it completely different to that?
Nope, it's nothing like Doctor Who. Absolutely nothing like Doctor Who, as far as I'm concerned. This is it. It's a strange one, right? Because I think they're really digging themselves a hole here, unless they want to reshape what happened in the 10 years that happened in the cinematic Marvel universe, which I suspect that's what they want to do, and move forward from this point on. So the WandaVision and this show plays a big part, so I've been told, or so I've read, in the films going forward. So there's got to be a point to this, isn't there, really? Well, that's what I think. I don't know if it's true or not, but hey.
Well, hopefully, or it could be the other thing where, as you've mentioned before, Clive, where it's all completely irrelevant or whatever. But
yeah,
it could be.
But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? A, on the sort of Doctor Who comparison, and B, where you think this is going to be going, Clive?
Well, I think it is. I think it is leaning heavily into the Doctor Who-iness. I think they are going for that, and I thought in a way they take one of the sort of principles that Doctor Who operates on is this idea of fixed points in time, so that there are certain certain big events which, no matter even if you time travel there and try and influence the event, basically the time stream will move things around, so it will happen anyway. You can't, there are certain things you can't change, which is how they, sort of excuse the Doctor from, why does he go back in time and kill Hitler, or do stop all these horrible things that have happened. And there have been certain past stories where they've dealt with that in a serious way, and sometimes they dealt with it in a very silly way. But so it seems
Winston Churchill robot, right?
Yeah. And Pompeii as well. Remember that he kind of changed that history a bit, didn't he?
He did it. He didn't change the event, but he changed one family.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So, well, you could say that maybe that's a reference, because obviously we go to Pompeii in this episode, don't we? There's an apocalypse event. But
and good on Loki for knowing Latin.
Yeah.
So it seemed to me that it has this similar idea of these, but they have these apocalypse events where it's kind of like these, they keep talking about nexus points. So I feel like they're talking about a lot of the same things. They're just calling it slightly different things, if that makes sense. And it's you've got like central heroes who are traveling around in time. They're not using guns. It's not that kind of a show. So I think they're leaning into a few things. As to where it's going, it's I mean they're trying. I think they might open it up. We might see a few sort of new things. It's sort of, I feel like I'm detecting the patterns of the Marvel Netflix shows a bit now. Now we're on like number 3, in that the first 2 it's fairly slow. It's like you get some quite exposition, introduce you to the world, slow build, and then there's like a bit of a twist reveal, and then it will start massively ramping up from next week, I think. So it's kind of. So I'm not, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure where it's going to go, but I'm interested. I am enjoying it.
No, that's cool. That's cool. And Claire, last week you were talking about Tom Hiddleston, and you mentioned, about obviously Kenneth Branagh, and of course, I didn't think at the time, but a lot of the reason Tom Hiddleston's got this part is because he worked with Kenneth Branagh on the show Wallander. Yeah. And he was in that, and obviously built his relationship with Kenneth Branagh from that, and then obviously got cast in Loki in Thor, and it's been a character that's endured, and to the point of getting his own series. And like you rightly said, they're sort of digging into the nuances of that character and doing more with it. What did you think? I mean, Tom Hiddleston is clearly enjoying, I think, chewing the scenery in some of these scenes. Have you got any particular thoughts or highlights on that? I mean, did you like the sort of Pompeii sequence, for example?
I'm not necessarily so. I say that I like that I like what he's doing within the scenes, if you see what I mean. So, I don't mind what the actual setting is as such. I like what each of those scenes, he's bringing something else, and we see another kind of facet of his personality. Whether he's being sarcastic or trying to be clever, or whether we're trying to suss out whether he's trying to trick them or not. We don't really know where his kind of mind is at. And that's what I'm finding, quite interesting, really. And what you were saying about him working with Kenneth Branagh, I believe as well, after he'd worked with him in Wallander, they were at the Donmar, I think, together. They were definitely in theatre together when Kenneth Branagh was confirmed to be the director of Thor, because apparently Kenneth Branagh is a massive comic book fan, even though he is a thespian actor, and
Mr. Shakespeare.
He is. He introduced me to Shakespeare. I saw him play Hamlet at the RSC, and I get very excited about that, even to this day. And I love Kenneth Branagh. So he had said to Tom Hiddleston, apparently, to consider to be cast for Thor, and he bulked himself up and went for the audition and didn't get it because that went to Chris Hemsworth. And then I think Kenneth Branagh said to him, well, look, have you thought about the part of Loki? You may be more suited to that. And I think that's what happened with that story. So they do go back quite a long way.
The troublesome brother.
Yeah, the troublesome brother. Yeah. So, for me, I am just liking the evolution of the character, and I think it's setting us up for what he's capable of. I don't think we've seen yet what he's really going to be capable of. I think you're just seeing the color palette of what he's able to do, and I just love the nuances of his performance. 1 minute he's being sarky, and the next minute he's emotional, and he's just able to flick. And I just love seeing that. There's this kind of inner life that he's being able to project now. And I really love the scenes with him and Owen Wilson. I know I've said that earlier on, but me, seeing two actors and seeing partners just bouncing off each other and seeing that chemistry on screen, that's more exciting to me than people jumping around fighting with guns and lasers. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, I get it. I must admit, I did
totally
kind
agree
of
with that
chuckle.
sentiment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I did kind of chuckle when they showed some of the other Loki variants, and there was the Lance Armstrong version of Loki with the cup in his hand and stuff. I did sort of think that would make an interesting series.
I do quite like how they're all kind of prepared to send it up a bit as well.
Yeah.
I think the humor in this was misplaced as well. I didn't think anything was funny. The bit where the guy was through the hurricane, he was shopping to try and get some flowers, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And he goes, I'm shopping for flowers." And then what was the line? It's a hurricane. And he goes, "Well, it's 40% off." Is that meant to be funny? Because I didn't find that funny at all. I was like, what? I mean, there was other bits in there that I didn't find it funny. I don't know. You guys found it funny? I didn't. I don't even know why it was in there. And then there's a bit where, I mean, you guys must have found it funny, but I didn't find it funny when he was telling he opened the thing and he let the goats go and stuff like that. And I was like,
I must admit, that bit wasn't. No, the bits it made me chuckle were the smaller things, like, as I said, when they showed those other Loki variants. I thought that was quite amusing, and I did like Owen Wilson's explanation that, you know, in the 90s they had a jet ski, and it was the perfect combination of form and factor and all this sort of thing. I thought that was quite funny, but I
didn't think the bit where he was using the salt and pepper to explain things, I didn't think that was funny either as well. I just think all the humor's misplaced, and you know, I was just sitting there going, okay, you know, I didn't laugh, I didn't chuckle or anything. I'm assuming that's meant to be funny, right? The bit where he takes that guy's drink, you know, the guy, and then pours the drink in there, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, that was just kind of ruining Owen Wilson or Morbius's salad that he was enjoying.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I did think one bit I thought the actors did quite a good job of was when Loki takes over another character like Hunter B-15, for example, and they have to take on the sort of personality and traits of him. I thought, you know, I like it when actors do that and when they do it well, and I thought the cast that had to do those bits in this did quite a good job with those things. Although I was slightly confused, and again, I might have got this wrong, because that's kind of presented as a power of his now. And I know they said that the powers can change in the various time variants, but I thought that the reason he could do that in the Avengers film was because of the Tesseract that was in the scepter. Did I? Because he did it with Skarsgård.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, you're right.
But so when he did that in those movies,
is that a bit of a retcon then?
When he did that in those, no, I don't think so. I think it's different powers. In those movies, when he did it, their eyes were turned blue, like the Tesseract, and in this one, when he does it, their eyes turn green. So I think it's a different Loki power that our Loki doesn't have, but this Loki does.
It's a plot power, is it? Power for the plot. Yeah. Whatever makes the plot work, right? It's like that, you know.
Exactly.
I guess.
Doctor Who's sonic screwdriver.
Sonic screwdriver opens any door apart from wooden doors. Apparently, apart from wood, it can't do anything with wood. Apparently, so there you go.
That's right. Yeah.
He said wood.
Yeah. There you go.
Right,
as you know, if you're talking about performance in this, I think everybody kind of phoned it in, really. As I said, you know, I know Claire enjoyed the banter between, you know, Owen and Loki, but I don't know. I'm just not feeling this at all now for some reason. As I said, at the ending was probably the highlight of it.
That we haven't seen though in the MCU.
Yeah, I've seen it. It was in Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and it was in the other one as well.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Right. I've seen it all. I mean,
those were the scenes I enjoyed most.
The thing is, though, if you look at the history of comic books, right, Marvel and DC, they were mostly for boys, right, and they were the boys' own adventure. You know, Spider-Man, Superman, Hulk, you know, whatever, and you know. And for the most of the 10 years that Marvel was the cinematic universe, it was mostly about that. It was mostly about, you know, entertainment and, you know, having these, you know, strapping young men, you know, kick ass, basically. That's what it was about. But now they're changing it. And I'm old fashioned. I like my heroes and villains to be villainous or you know, or heroes, you know, the typical heroes. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I don't like this, because I want Loki to be evil and stuff. And when he comes through that porthole in Avengers and he kills all those people around him, that's evil, right? You know, it's evil, you know. I come bearing blah, 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 you know.
Have you not got to... Has there not got to be something that you need, that you have to invest in? You know, if you was just evil, that would just be one-dimensional, wouldn't it?
No, not really. No. Being good has different aspects to it. Being evil has different aspects to it. Be interesting to investigate the different aspects to being evil, same as to be good. So they all have their different facets. Do you know what I mean? Like for instance, what's his name? Thanos. Thanos will never say that he's evil. What he's doing is evil. He believes what he's doing is good. And there is his character, isn't it? Because he actually believes what he's doing is for the best to the universe, and that's a facet to his evilness.
But you don't root for Thanos, really, do you?
Oh, I was. No, not really. I'm joking.
Okay.
No, you're right. But the thing is, though, you could root for the people that's trying to pull down Thanos. Same thing with this. If Loki was evil and he was doing his evil stuff, you can root for the people that are trying to bring him down. You know, doesn't mean to say that every show has to have someone good for the show to work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you could have someone evil for a show, you know. But anyway, that's
no. I mean, it does go back to your. Sorry, Pete. Go on.
Go on, Pete.
No.
Go on, mate.
I just want to address two things here. One, I like wholeheartedly disagree that comic books are for boys.
That's okay.
And two, I just want to like name some characters from the beginning of the MCU. Pepper Potts ran Tony Stark's life. It was not boys being boys. Agent Carter is the best thing in Captain America, the First Avenger, so much so that she got her own spin-off show. Right? Like,
we love paying that well.
I firmly...
Yeah, we do.
I firmly disagree with the premise that the MCU was for men to come in and look good and kick ass for the first 10 years, and now they've gone off that path. I think that even Natasha Romanoff is in Iron Man 2, right? So did I hit the first three? No, I missed Thor. Nope, I'm not going down that road. But I'm sure somebody can make a point for Kat Dennings if they want to, or Natalie Portman. I'm not doing it. And there you go. Okay.
But Iron Man was about a male kicking ass in an Iron Man suit, and Hulk was about a man that grew into this huge, and he was kicking ass. You know, it's all boys' own stuff, no matter which way you look at it. Yeah, sure, the women appeared in it, and if you go back even further with the history of comics, that's what it was all about. It was all aimed for the boys, right? Yeah, there were some women characters in there empowering women like Wonder Woman, and you know, well, Captain Marvel wasn't Captain Marvel; it was a guy first, and then she got changed into a woman. Blah blah blah, whatever. But you can't deny the fact that most of the characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe were heroes that equated the comics before the films existed. Spider-Man, Hulk. You know, you can't deny that, because that is a fact.
Yeah, but in the same way that we no longer have Shakespeare plays that are entirely played by men, right? Like. Yeah. Things change in the way that we engage with entertainment. And
I agree.
Like in the 50s,
I totally agree.
There's super specific gender roles, right? Where it's like girls were not allowed to play with it. But, you know, we're not in the 50s anymore. We don't have to
no dispute here from me.
And we can tell good stories. And that's what I'm saying, is that like from the moment that the MCU has come in, like they have told good stories across gender lines, or they've tried to do it.
Yeah, but it was focused on the hero, though, of the film, and the same thing with the comics as well. That's what I'm saying, right? Yes, you had Black Widow in Iron Man 2, but she was a guest star, and the same thing with Pepper Potts as well. She wasn't the star of Iron Man. It was Downey Jr. and it was the Iron Man. You know, so that's what I'm saying. Every Marvel film had that kind of thing in it, obviously apart from Captain Marvel, of course, because it had a female in it, you know. But that's what I'm saying. And yes, it's changing now and stuff like that, but I personally think it's changing for the worse, because I want the balance. I wanted Black Widow to get her own film, which she is years too late. I want to see more Wonder Woman films, but not like Wonder Woman 84, because that was absolutely awful. Yeah, but I want to see women have their own film, right, in the cinematic universe. I want to see that. I really do, you know.
Claire, do you have any strong thoughts on that? I mean, you know, the earlier MCU films, did you go and see them, and did you in any way think, oh, these are boys flicks, or did you just probably knowing you enjoyed watching them? But...
yeah, especially Thor.
I'm just as blokey as any fella, really. But anyway, gosh, did I? Oh, well, I was, to be honest, if it wasn't for my brother watching these films, and then kind of latterly me doing red carpet and all of that malarkey where I'm interviewing these people, I wouldn't be jumping on the bandwagon, to go and see them personally. I like small indie, character driven stuff. Oh God, you're all gonna hate me. I'm not a fan of Iron Man.
No,
and I think I couldn't even get to the end of it. I was just
the first
and
one.
My brother keeps telling me the whole because I couldn't invest in him. He was arrogant, and Anthony's like, yes, that's the whole point. And I just couldn't like him, and I just couldn't give a shit, pardon me, about whatever happened to Iron Man. So I didn't watch Iron Man 2 or 3 or whatever, and don't like him in any of the films. So
my
so you're sort of supporting Ian's point then. You're sort of supporting Ian's point.
Well, you didn't miss anything. Iron Man 2 and 3 were rubbish. Sorry,
it's not about him being macho. It's about him, being arrogant. Just being a dislikable character and arrogant, and I just couldn't buy into it, more invest in him, and that's just, I suppose.
Yeah, to be fair, Claire, with that, and it sort of leads into sort of what you've been saying about Loki and the nuances of the character. If you are able to watch Tony Stark's arc throughout the MCU, he does. Yeah. I mean, that is one character that does go on a complete journey, and he's a very different man in Avengers Endgame than he was in Iron Man 1. Very different. So
he's got a good arc.
Maybe you've got to have the patience to invest in 8 movies or whatever it is he's in, a total of those, so it's quite a lot of real estate to sit through, but he does actually go on that journey. I mean, I do take your point as to what he's like at the beginning of the first Iron Man movie, and but there is, because he's the character that probably appears the most in most of the movies than any of the others, I guess, more or less. Probably him and Nick Fury are the two that appear in the most films. But Tony, but obviously Tony from more of a lead point of view. So yeah.
And I really liked Captain America, and I think
for reasons.
That's why I was a bit sort of disappointed with kind of the whole Winter Soldier thing, because I expected. I mean, you've got some great actors. I mean, Sebastian Stan's amazing. You've got Daniel Bruhl, who's amazing as well.
Anthony Mackie.
And then, but this, and again, it all goes down to the writing, doesn't it? That I was a little underwhelmed, unfortunately, with that series. I didn't not enjoy it, but I was a bit sort of.
No, very fair comment, and that's why we have these conversations. So, what about you, Clive? Any kind of thoughts or reaction to any of that?
Well, it's quite a big scope, isn't it? No, I mean, I feel like the thing with all the MCU films is, all right, they're taking from the comics, and obviously, and a lot of these comics started way back in the 60s, so they were originally created, these characters within a certain kind of worldview, but they've evolved and they've changed, and it's not like the MCU films we've seen are they're not throwbacks to that world. They're cherry picking from the stories they like. They're taking the bits of the characters they think work best now, and it is going to, whenever you put something up on the screen and you film it with physical actors, it's going to become something different than you know, than what an artist drawn on the page and what, you know, what the writer's written. You know, it's become something different. So yeah, and I think, you know, I think the reason there wasn't a Black Widow film is apparently because the studio was cowardly. That's why we didn't get it until now, because they were playing safe. And I can
Scarlett
understand.
Deserves it. Scarlett definitely deserves it.
I could sort of understand it in that very early phase 1 where they're building towards the Avengers and the worry is that one of those films is going to tank, and then the build up won't work. But once you've hit the Avengers, the fact that you don't then go on to have that standalone film, then that's just because safe thinking, and it's a shame. And I think I'm encouraged by, you know, the fact that they're going to sort of different places in Marvel Comics for their new heroes, and and they're bringing in all kinds of different creators, but at the same time you still got that kind of overarching kind of, you know, you don't feel like no one's behind the wheel of the Marvel bus like you have done maybe with DC in the past. You know, Kevin Feige's still, you know,
he's still driving.
Right? he's still driving. He's got his hands full with quite a bit at the moment. But
he has.
He's put an auto drive.
Yeah.
Let's put it on.
So I don't know. I don't really agree with Ian that it was all boysy stuff, because for one reason, I think, you know, when studios make big films, they want them to have the 4-quadrant like reach, right? They want to reach, you know, they don't just want half the population, they want the whole population. So they want women to be interested in these characters as well.
But they were.
So yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean. I don't think it was just a boy's own thing, but.
I mean, my little niece cried. It was her favorite character, Iron Man, and she'd been watching the films as long as I had been watching. And she's now 13. I remember when I took her to see Endgame, we were all speculating who was going to die, because there was that rumor that somebody was going to die, and she was like, "I hope it's not Iron Man." And then when Iron Man died at the end, and she was in tears in the cinema, she was crying and stuff like that. You know, a lot of women like a lot of the male characters in the cinematic universe, and you know, as I said, respectfully, I disagree with you. It was very much a boys' own adventure, majority of the films, and they're changing it. If they want to change it, I don't own the property; it's up to them if they want to change it. But for me, I'm old school. You know, I like my heroes the way they were in the comics and stuff. So, you know, but that's just me, right? You know,
no, that's fine, and there is no right or wrong here.
Exactly.
This is a big discussion. I am conscious of time, so I do want to sort of.
Are we breaking off into the Nexus?
Before we go into the Nexus,
we're going into the Nexus now, lads.
Exactly. If you're watching this, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this? Please put it down in the comments below, and you know, I'd love to know what the wider audience, if we have one out there, thinks. But in the meantime, I do want to give everyone the opportunity just to say where we can find their work or whatever. Pete, I know you need to dash off, so let's start with you, Pete.
Cheers, Pete.
Like Keith said at the start, I'm the host of co-host with Keith at the Let's See What's Out There podcast. Check us out on all good podcasting apps at Let's See What's Out There. Follow us on Twitter or Instagram at LSWOTcast, or on Facebook at Let's See What's Out There cast, right? And you can get in touch with us if you like over email at lswotcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much.
Excellent.
Cool. No worries, Pete. If you've got to drop off, no problem. I know you've got to be somewhere. So
thanks, Pete. Appreciate it, pal.
We'll see you next week.
Take it easy.
Cheers, Pete.
Likewise.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Clive, where can people find your work?
I'm just going to sneak one last thought in about the show,
Here we go.
if I may.
It's all right. Pete was texting me saying he had to go, so that's why I was trying to.
Right, yeah, sorry.
No, that's cool. It's just one thing we didn't really hit in the show was that we had another scene with the Gugu and Buther Raw's character, Ravonna Renslayer, where again where we see her kind of in her chambers, and we see that Owen Wilson's character go to her for permission to sort of carry out this crazy mission. But I don't know. I don't know what people's thoughts are. I'm getting a vibe that there's something going on with her. Like she's working for someone.
Double crossing.
Yeah, like there's like another game going on with her that we don't know about.
Yeah.
So,
no, absolutely. I got that vibe as well, and the whole thing with the timekeepers as well. You know, you had these sort of statues there, and apparently she's the only one that actually talks to them. Is that right? That they revealed this week. So
that's right. Yeah.
Something's going on there. Sorry, Claire. Did you have another point as well? I think you were about to say something when I started rapping.
Oh no. What was I going to say? It was. It was just. Maybe it can wait till next week. No, it was more about like I think they were talking about resetting the timeline, and I wondered because obviously you guys have followed this in much more kind of detail than me, the whole kind of arc of the universe and whatever cinematic universe. So if they were to reset the timeline and you've been invested in this the whole kind of 10 plus years that we've been watching the movies, would you feel kind of robbed that the whole build up to Endgame and those kind of last two films, if they were just to kind of reset the clock?
Of course, I'd feel upset that everything that gone before is resetted. That would just suck, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I mean that's actually a really good point, Claire, because that's one of the things I was going to ask actually this evening was about as I'd sort of alluded to in the intro today, is does this mean that everything that happened in the Infinity Saga is irrelevant? I don't actually know the answer to that question. No. Some people fear it might mean that. I'm not necessarily sure whether it does or not, but I know there are some people that are kind of upset.
There are a lot of people that are upset. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Is it almost like, if like that whole terrible thing that I woke up and it was a dream. Yeah. Remember when you were a kid and you had to write an essay? That's if you couldn't find an ending, that's what you'd write in it. It was a dream. Yeah,
the end. You put the end after
it. We all watched Dallas.
Yeah, exactly. In the shower.
What is it? Yeah.
Bobby in the shower.
But I mean, this is possibly. I mean, I don't know whether you guys are all happy to come back next week to discuss episode 3, but maybe we'll get. Hopefully we'll get more answers in episode 3 about what is going on exactly. And I mean, I agree with you, Clive. There's something more than meets the eye going on with that whole side of things. I don't necessarily think that Madam Loki, if it is Madam Loki, or the variant, is necessarily the big bad in this show. I think there's something else going on behind the scenes.
Is there something going on between them two?
No, well, not between Owen and I mean, in the history of the comics, that character is in love with one of the space lizards, right? One of the characters. Right. So I know that's in the comics, but whether they'll do it in the show is another matter. But I do agree with Clive. Was it Clive that said it? Something about her character. It seems a bit, she's the only one that can talk to them. Interesting. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I agree. Something's going on there. There you go.
All right. Well, as I said, let us know what you think down in the comments, and we'll obviously be back next week to discuss more of this. But in the meantime, Clive, where can people find more of your work?
Thanks, Keith. if people want to find more of my work, they can go to Vimeo, put in my name, Clive Ashenden, and they'll find my most recent short films.
Yeah, and I'll have a link to that, as with everybody else's, in the notes down below. Mega Geek, what about you? What have you got going on? Where can people find your stuff?
So people think that I'm not for women leads in the films, but I'd like to tell you that I made a feature film called Bad Day, right? And that was over 20 years ago. Was it 20 years ago? Was it 20 years ago, Keith?
Wasn't that long? About 15, I think.
15 years ago, and all my leads were female in my movie. So don't think.
So you were there first.
Well, yeah, of course. And same thing with Rebecca Gold. The lead in there is a young girl. So I'm not against that at all, because I actually believe in that personally. But as I said, that's just me. Anyway,
you've just got some cool guys as supporting characters.
That's right. Yeah. yeah. Keith gets slapped down.
With a gun.
Actually, yeah, that's true. Actually, I want to be. I don't want to be made a fool of in these films.
but yeah, you could see Rebecca Gold on YouTube. Just type in Rebecca Gold and you'll find it. And you could see Bad Day if you want to see Bad Day, Fallen Angels, which is a horror that has a load of females in it, and Killing Zone. If you want to see those films, then just drop me a line on Twitter, which is at Ian David Diaz, and I'll send you the link and you can watch them. They're good films. If I do say so myself. So there you go.
They're in the links below as well. But I do feel that you've become a self-fulfilling prophecy there, Ian.
Really? It's all my fault.
Exactly.
It's my fault.
You started the movement.
Oh dear.
I'm sorry, I've got a tease. Claire, what about you? I know you've got some work that people can check out. Please plug away.
I'll plug. Do check out our documentary, Cleaning Up the Town, Remembering Ghostbusters, which is the definitive retrospective making of Ghostbusters, and we go into all the behind the scenes and talk to people like Dan Aykroyd, the late great Harold Ramis, Sigourney Weaver is in it as well, Ivan Reitman, so all the familiar faces, and that's available on Blu-ray in the United Kingdom, and it can be linked below. Thank you, Keith. And it can be seen on Crackle in the United States. And also I'm a film journalist, and I have an online site called Premiere Scene, where I interview lots of filmmakers, seasoned and new and up and coming filmmakers, and we talk all about the filmmaking process and try to inspire other filmmakers. Well,
me and Keith should be on that, shouldn't we? Shouldn't we, Keith?
We should
be interviewed, should we not? And Clive should be interviewed as well.
Actually, to be fair, Claire did interview us for
God damn it.
Modern Love. So
all right, okay. You forgot the Mega Geek. How dare you? How very dare you?
Hey, Rebecca Gold season 2, Ian. We'll be interviewed by Claire. I'm sure. Now that's cool. There's links there below. Please, check out Premiere Scene. There's some really good content on there also. So please check that out. Also, please check out the rest of this channel. There are reviews below for physical media, Blu-rays, DVDs, 4K UHDs, that sort of thing. We have product unboxings. We have reviews and comparisons, and we have more live streams covering other Marvel shows and other topics. So please go ahead and check that out. Consider subscribing to the channel. That'll be fantastic. If you want to see any other work as well, there's a link down below to British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name, where I've got some short films that I've written, produced, and directed on there. So any feedback welcome there as well. But thank you for your time today. Thank you to the guests for their time. Please check us out next week, where we'll be covering episode 3. But we'll see you next time on Let's See What's Out There, Loki. Bye for now.
Bye.